What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Rip City Rundown podcast. Another offseason podcast. We are under 2 months until the season starts. And this is the last August podcast, which I think we can all agree is definitely the most dead time of the NBA year, the month of August. September, especially near the end of September, some things will start to heat up for sure. The main topic of this podcast, we're going to actually probably, unless, you never know, it could come up at some point. I think we're going to try to stay away from the Damian Lillard talk. So pause this, give us a round of applause. Damian Lillard is not going to be the topic of discussion today. We're actually going to kind of compare and see where the Blazers stack when it comes to young cores in the NBA. So that's going to be the main topic. I don't know which episode this is. This is somewhere in the mid-90s. We are nearing episode 100. So comment what you would want us to do for episode 100. Anything in particular. And honestly, it could line up to near the beginning of the season. So we'll see how that goes. But how are you guys doing today? Excited to talk some young cores.
I am excited to talk about some young core because as Blazer fans, that should be what our lenses are on now. Now that Damian Lillard is most likely on his way out, it's time to rebuild and appreciate it and be excited about it. The Blazers have one of the best young cores in the NBA, and I'm so excited to deep dive and compare us to other teams and how we think we will shape up in, let's say, 3 years from now. Anything can happen. With the NBA West, interesting location you're in there recording.
Yeah,
Usually that's a cold spot.
yeah,
Good
I
to
am.
see you there.
Yeah, I'm in the as we like to say, the catbird seat, if you will. I feel more important in the studio. Being flanked by C.J. McCollum and Gary Trent Jr., two players who are no longer on the roster, and quite frankly, the one behind my head is probably shortly going to follow these two. But regardless, it's still good to be here. Have my prized possession, the Damian Lillard Ric Flair drips, which again,
Wait, it's not
also,
the pack of seeds over your left shoulder?
oh, funny you say that, Cole. Hashtag not sponsored, but get your seeds. This says Colorado, but we all know Oregon's a better state than Colorado, right, my fellow Oregonians? Right. So get you some seeds. Yeah, createdbynature.com. Yeah, it's summer, fall. Plant some great seeds in the fall.
All right, let's talk about the Blazers.
I know. I have a soft spot for the seeds, man.
They were our presenting sponsor for, I think, our draft live stream back in
Exactly.
2021.
Exactly. We're doing them a favor. They're doing us a favor. It's mutual.
Yep.
Now, for me, all jokes aside, like you said, Cody, I'm excited to see and to compare our young cores to the rest of the league and where other teams are. We're going to be comparing to a lot of different teams, some teams that are much farther along in the rebuilding process than we are. I'll preface it with this. The list that we've created, it's very easy to have your own list. And what I mean by that is it's all very, very close. It really determines what you want in a young core. If you care about positional versatility, like for example, the Blazers just have a lot of guards, but they're good young guards. And so I think in order to prove that the Blazers young core is good, I'll start with this, is that you kind of have to play some hypothetical games where, down the line, the Blazers will cash in, because obviously you're probably not going to keep three guards long term, right?
Yep.
You never know. The Blazers love them some guards. So you never know with that. But I'm excited to dive in. I think it'll be very interesting. And I want to hear everyone's opinions and your own. Yeah, just comment down below what you think. Like, rank them, honestly, because I don't think it's that crazy to say the Blazers have the best young core on this list. I don't think it's crazy to say the Blazers have the worst young core on this list. That's how close it
By
is.
the list you're referring to, I'll just quickly say the teams we've named and brainstormed. We have the Thunder, Spurs, Blazers, Hornets, Pacers, Pelicans, T-Wolves, Pistons, Magic, and Rockets. And again, we'll dive into each of them bits and pieces. So that's the list you're referring to because you never mentioned that. But
Yeah. One team I do want to go and say out in front we did not include is the Grizzlies, because I honestly don't look at them as a young core anymore. Despite I'm pretty sure Jaren and Ja are both still 24, and typically, you think the under 25 is the young core. At this point, they're going to year 4, year 5? I think year 4, 5
We
for
assume
Jaren.
every other team's trying to win, basically.
Yeah, I mean, these are all teams that, like, for example, the Timberwolves are on here, but I don't know if you would look. This is where this whole conversation kind of it can go so many different ways, because what is your definition of a young core? Is it a team like the Timberwolves where you have Ant Edwards and then 2 solid complementary pieces, none that you probably are going to think are going to be stars, and Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid, but you have the one centerpiece? Or do you look at a team like the Rockets? You don't necessarily have a centerpiece right now, but you've got so much young talent in Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, Amen Thompson, Cam Whitmore, and basically the whole roster over there. Similarly to how the Blazers are. So
Yep.
I would love to hear you guys' opinions on that. I mean, you could say the Mavericks have a young core, and you can just include Luka. So just kind of first instinct, before even really diving deep, I think we can all agree the Blazers have, you could argue, probably one of the best young cores in the NBA, and maybe the best young core they've ever had. I
Yeah.
almost think, other than Greg Oden, and obviously his career went downhill,
And Roy. And B. Roy.
but I don't think anyone's had as much hype coming into the Blazers as
Fair.
Scoot.
So initial thoughts on this is, it's hard for me to really compare the Blazers to teams such as, like you said, like Minnesota, Memphis, teams of that nature, like Dallas. When I think of core, I think of teams that are, stockpiling young talent, but that young talent is still maybe 1 to 2 years away from popping. That's when I think of like a young core. For example, like the Grizzlies core is young, but I don't think they're a young core. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Because I think once you have some form of playoff success, or you're playoff tested, you kind of mature into just, you kind of exit that rebuilding phase.
It's kind of like the Celtics in the last couple of years have exited that young Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, like young guys. Now they're just considered just a good team in general. Like they should go do it now. It's kind of what the Grizzlies are, I think, at this point.
And comparing the Blazers roster to these other young cores, maybe like on paper they aren't, what am I trying to say, position wise, because like I said, we have all guards. The Blazers aren't going to have 3 guards long term, but we're one, you could say, trade, or you could say 1 lottery pick away from acquiring a top center in the league. So just because, let's say, Scoot, Shade, and Anthony couldn't beat, like, I don't know, Josh Giddey or another a team with a big team, basically, that doesn't mean we're worse. It just means that talent wise correlates on different positions. So that's all.
And I think the Blazers, when you look at a young core like theirs, they're in this middle ground, so to speak, where, like you were saying, we have teams in the league like the Rockets, the Pistons. You get Spurs are a little different just because like Wemby has so much gravity and hype around him. But there are some teams that literally don't care about the roster fit, so to speak. They're just trying to accumulate young talent. And yes, the Blazers fall into that, but they still have a veteran like Jeremy Grant on the roster. They still have Nurkic on the roster for now. We're not going to talk about him, but Damian Lillard is technically still on the roster. So, but then you have, on the flip side, you have these like one-man cores like the Timberwolves and the Mavs. So I think the Blazers are in this weird middle ground where they have quality over quantity is what I'd say there. And let's not forget, like, we wrote 4 young players down. Like, we didn't include Jabari Walker, which you arguably could. I mean, you might Nas. You could throw in Nas.
I was gonna say Nas probably,
but
definitely get an inclusion.
The four we put in were Scoot, Shade, and Anthony, Chris Murray, and that's not a lot of young guys for a team that's trying to rebuild. But people need to realize Anthony Simons, like, at least to the list that we were making, and just looking at guys on the list, Anthony Simons is up there in terms of best young players in the league. And I think if Anthony Simons was a stock for all you stockies out there, I would buy some Anthony Simons stock.
Most improved player.
Yeah, you fired off a take. I don't know when it was, but that's a take that has good potential to age pretty well. I don't know.
Yeah, I do think an intriguing thing about the Blazers young cores, you look at all these teams, and Spurs have been tanking for a while. Thunder have been tanking for a while. The Pacers have been tanking for a while. All these teams have been we have 2 lottery picks on the team right now. And I think it's safe to assume we will have another lottery pick next year. And I think once we get that lottery pick next year, especially in a draft that's big, heavy, I think if we did this come next year, I'm confident saying we're top 3, if not number 1.
Yeah.
I do wish there was obviously Cooper Flagg reclassified to the 2024 high school class. Or 2024 high school class, so he's not ready for the 2025 draft. But I did think that was interesting because who knows where the Blazers are in 2 years. They still could be at the top of the lottery. But obviously, this is a very big, heavy draft come next year. A guy that is near the top is one of the guys we saw at the Les Schwab Invitational from Duncanville, Ron Holland, who honestly didn't even look that great when he was playing. I mean, he got upset by Wes Len. Like, come on now.
Come on. Jackson Shelstead put him.
Yeah. That was obviously electric, but I think this young core it's even in the early stages. We're still in the early stages of this so-called rebuild. Like we're finally going to commit to it for the first time. Even though we had the 3rd pick last year, we didn't really commit to it. So,
like your point of saying that if we were to do this video, let's say next year with the new lottery pick, we would be the best young core in the NBA, or one of the best. I think right now, I'd have to say probably the Thunder are the best. I mean, when you have Shea averaging over 30 points at his age, with Chet, who hasn't even really played a game yet, and Josh Giddey as well. I mean, I feel like that's probably the best young core in the NBA, but I don't think we're that far behind. It's going to be interesting to see if the Thunder even get a lottery pick, or if they like make the playoffs, for example. And, the Thunder, they've been doing it for, I mean, Dame sent them into their rebuild pretty much.
Yeah, really.
And unfortunately for us, CJ sent us in our rebuild when he stepped out of bounds. That was a joke, CJ. You're amazing. But to be honest, I mean, that's facts. But
yeah, I just looking at the list, I'll just go ahead and just fire off my take. I think the Blazers are a borderline top 5 young core.
Yeah.
Who's better? I want to hear.
It's very hard. It's because
I'm going to take the Thunder.
On the same level as a lot of people.
I'm going to take the Thunder.
Okay.
I'm going to take the Pacers for now, but I think that's one we can pass. I'm going to take. I mean, if we're going to put the Timberwolves on here, I mean, Anthony Edwards carries. I mean, the Pelicans. I know Zion's unhealthy, but they have a young core. You could throw in Jose Alvarado over there in New Orleans as well. Hornets with LaMelo. It's just, I think the Thunder clear. The Thunder have been doing this for a while. I think that's why I'm going to say borderline top 5, because I don't want to throw the Blazers just automatically top 3. Because let's not forget, Scoot Henderson has not played a NBA game, and Shaedon Sharpe, is what a year in, and going back to Scoot Henderson. If you compare him to Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson's summer league lasted what was it, 25 minutes? I don't remember the exact amount, probably even less. So there's a lot of hypotheticals when it comes to this, but in terms, like you said, hype and excitement around a prospect in Portland I don't think has been greater in, I don't want to say franchise history. I'll say since 2000, because I'm not going to disregard the history like that. And probably there's someone in the comments going to be like, you can't forget about this guy back in the 70s. And that you're right, but I don't watch 70s basketball. So since 2000, and Scoot being that, I think we just need to appreciate that. And I understand it's very hard for people, and for me it has been, with this big rain cloud that is just the Damian Lillard situation, and Scoot being a replacement. Like, it just stinks that those are the optics. But like, let's just appreciate, like, this guy has been professional for 2 years playing for the Ignite. And he is one of the most marketable, like, he's more marketable than Wemby. Not that makes you a better player, but he's just going to bring more eyeballs to Portland. I think that's only a good thing for a small market team. Like, I think the Blazers are going to ride Scoot, for the lack of a better term. And, whether it's marketing or on the court. So I think him spearheading a rebuild and spearheading our young core, in addition to the most improved player this year, Anthony Simons, and the guy who can jump out of the freaking gym, and Shaedon Sharpe, and Chris Murray, which is just going to be his brother.
Who's going to be off this list in a year because he's already 23.
You know what I was thinking? This is the crazy thing. And y'all have done a great job not bringing Dame's name into this, and I've done it twice now already, but I'm gonna do it one more time. This team is so in limbo right now that I feel like every time we make a podcast, I feel like that topic in 3 days could just be stupid. Because what if, all of a sudden something turns and we are all of a sudden wanting to be competitive with a trade or something? We're like, well, young core, great.
You want to know why I just completely agree with that? If you just look at our last 3 podcasts 2 weeks ago, it was let's talk about how we're going to trade for Joel Embiid. That's obviously a win now move. Last week it was trading Dame for Cat, kind of like a middle ground rebuild, and now we're just talking full rebuild. It's just all.
I mean, that's what you gotta do over the summer. Yeah, this podcast we're gonna try to, avoid the D word, and by the D word I don't mean DAMN. I mean DAME. We're gonna have to try to
Wow.
Avoid that word.
Is that that's crazy, bro.
We're not talking about him. We're talking about
him. We're not talking about him just because I think we've covered.
We'll talk about him next week in next podcast when we're requesting to trade for like LeBron or something. Obviously.
I'm gonna ask. I got a question for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
The Blazers get 2 All-Stars. I'm just kidding. I'm playing.
The hot take last summer was, will the Blazers get 4 All-Stars?
That was hot takes. That was hot takes.
From our guy PC, yeah. But back to the young cores, I think the 2 most comparable teams to the Blazers, in my opinion,
the Magic, right?
No, I was gonna say, actually, probably one team more than the other. I would say our most comparable team is the Pistons, and here's why. Jaden Ivey and Shaedon Sharpe are like, I think Shaedon Sharpe will be better, but from a non-Blazers biased, they're the same thing right now. They both had their struggles and they both had their extreme high moments their rookie year. They're both extreme high potential athletes. They're on the same tier. Scoot is better than a Sir Thompson, obviously, but I think they're while they're not comparable, they're interesting. Just they're, for the sake of this argument, they're comparable. Then the thing is, like, Cade Cunningham could be an all-star next year. I mean, this is the first overall pick, and he was a stud his rookie year. He almost won Rookie of the Year, and then he was just hurt last year. So who knows? He could end up being the best player of the 2 cores, and then they obviously have a little more young depth in Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, and other guys like that. I mean, if you want to throw in Killian Hayes, despite him being I'm pretty sure the worst shooter in the entire league last year. But I think
worse than Mo Harkless.
The thing is, Pistons fans are having the same conversations probably that we are, but we look at it's just like, oh, it's the Pistons. They stink because they always have stinked. I was gonna compare them to the Rockets, but I think I trust Scoot, Shane Anthony a little more than Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and Ben Thompson, and also just like, despite us hating on Portland's front office and sometimes hating on Chauncey, they're miles better than anything down in Houston when it comes to just culture-wise. So when it comes to the true young cores, which I'm excluding the Timberwolves, I'm honestly going to exclude the Pelicans. I'm excluding, I don't know, maybe the Pacers. I'm just looking at the teams that have yet to like establish like the true star on their team. I think the Blazers compare most to the Rockets, probably the Magic, the Pistons,
which are all teams that stink, which is great.
Yeah.
The hard thing about this whole argument is pretty much every like player that we listed out for, maybe not every player, like Isaiah Stewart, no, but a couple players per young core could be all-stars. You just don't know.
Exactly.
So that's what's so hard is you're looking into the future, which I feel like we're going to be doing a lot of on this channel this year, is looking into the future, which is just part of the coping as a fan of a team who stinks, which is unfortunate, but the reality. But it's so hard to decide which young core is better. It's so hard to decide, does Anthony Simons have a better chance to be an all-star, or does Jordan Poole in Washington have a better chance to be an all-star? Because both players are going to get so many opportunities to just huck. They're just going to chuck and huck, and which is good, but for Simons and continuing to develop. But that's why I think ranking young cores can be super
Mhm.
difficult at times. So yeah, I'll just say the Blazers have a borderline top 5. I can't rank it because again, there's so many things in the young core, if that makes.
Wait, say that again. You kind of cut out.
froze.
I was just gonna. When did I cut out?
Just right as you were making the final statement, like
I was just
after
saying that
borderline top 5.
yeah, I would put them borderline top 5 because I don't want to rank each one like individually with a reason, because there's so many future reasons that could cause something to change, whether like all-star appearances.
That's why I'm about to ask you an even harder question. Specifically, the Blazers young core. Exclude Chris Murray for the sake of this argument, because let's be honest, we know it's Scoot, Shade, and Anthony are the three big pieces. I guess take the question how you want to take it, but who do you think of the three will, like, come the start of next season or by the end of the season, like, raise their stock the most? So I don't know how, like, you have a personal opinion on your stock of everybody. You could think Scoot's a future MVP. You could think Anthony's just a microwave scorer in the future. You could think Shane's an all-star. Who do you think is good by the end of next season? Would you think you will have a different point of view of in a positive way?
Okay.
It's a hard question.
I will go first here. I wouldn't say it's not going to change my point of view of this player, but I think his stock will get raised the most because I'm very high on all three players. And if one plays well, it'll raise his stock, but it's not going to change my view of that player because I'm an optimistic fan of Blazers. So I think Anthony is going to raise his stock the most, which is crazy because his stock is already the highest out of the three. I'm going to say Anthony because he's going to pretty much be the perimeter scorer of this team. Like, yes, Jeremy will get his touches in the post, high post, on the wing, whatever. But like Anthony is going to be the player that makes the offense go. I don't know. We haven't gone into a preview of what the offense is going to look like or the defense is going to look like, but I can assure you it's going to be a lot of Anthony pick and roll, especially if Dame is not on the team. So I think Anthony is going to raise his stock the most. The reason I don't say Shaden is because I think Shaden is going to be just the third guy out of the three. I think he's on the Anthony development path. Let's not forget, like, Anthony took a couple years to really find his way, and it's not like we're trying to rebuild in a year. So I think like Shaden will have his opportunity to play through his mistakes, but I just don't see him. I think he's at this point yes, he's a very energetic scorer and he really like pops on the screen, like, when he makes a good play just because of how electric he is, but he's so much behind the other two in playmaking, for example. Like, I think he's just going to develop more this year. And then Scoot, which I'm not saying Scoot because I just think he's already so hyped up that I just think it's kind of sort of like Wemby. I feel like it's just so hard to meet expectations as a super hyped up rookie. So I think he's going to play fine. I just don't think that people are going to be like, Scoot is, unless he wins Rookie of the Year, which he could. But I'll let you make an argument for Scoot if you want to, Cody. But I'm going to go with Anthony.
I will go with Scoot. I would say all three because I want everyone to be amazing. And I truly do have high hopes for Scoot, Shaden, and Ant. I'm going to say Scoot. Just good head on him, first of all. We already knew that. Second, you guys can disagree with me, but like from what I saw, just anytime I watch Summer or his G League highlights, I almost want to say he's not more of a playmaker than a scorer, but like he's more pass first minded, I guess, than like other players. And I think that's a standing trait to have, especially as a young player who just wants to score the basketball, because that's kind of what, when you're young, you don't maybe play the smartest basketball, but I think I love what I saw from him. Like I said, it all starts with his head. Not only the dog mentality type, but just being a smart. Why are you guys smiling at? But so I'm gonna say Scoot. I want to say all of them though. But
I like both of the answers you said. Honestly, what Wes said was probably exactly what I was gonna say. I'm just not gonna say Shaden right now, just because I personally haven't seen enough from Shaden. I think I said it last podcast. I think Anthony's going to average 28 to 30. I think he could win Most Improved next year. And then Scoot,
What did
I
I say
think
exactly?
I think
Oh,
Scoot's
I'm
going to be
sorry.
a
That's
stud. I think
me.
the
Me.
idea of him being pass first as a rookie, something you don't see a lot. He's gonna. I mean, like you said, he's played pro for a couple years. But yeah, I mean, his hype is so good. Like, let's be honest here. If he's not an all star at some point in his career, we're going to be extremely disappointed. So,
Yeah.
his bar is already so
Also,
high that I just don't know how much higher I can put it. So,
Yeah. I'm just to
no
put a
arguments for Chris Murray
to
or
no
Repair or Nasir.
repair. Just to put a bow on that question, Cody, you pretty much you phrased what I was trying to say when I said that Shaden is lacks playmaking on the other two. Like I agree with you in terms of what I saw, at least in his limited minutes in summer league. Like the dude, I remember the first play, he like comes off a pick and roll and he puts the defender like on his hip and then like makes a nice pass out of the pick and roll to the corner. And I think Chris Murray hit a 3 against the Rockets. And I was like, that's something like Dame would do, or Ant had just learned and was able to unlock. Like Shaden is not doing that. Shaden is a secondary scorer, more of a slasher. Shaden will get numbers because he's going to get shots up, which is great, and he's going to need to do that. But I think Scoot has a better chance of raising his stock over Shaden for the reason that he's already such a gifted passer. And like you said, his mentality, which stems from playing for the G League Ignite for a few years and getting that the professional like feel and playing professional basketball, even though it is the G League, just does him wonders. And yeah, he's just mature. You just even when you look at him, he just looks like a guy who knows how to lead and get the most out of his teammates, and that could be high praise. That could be me just absolutely just glazing. It could, yeah, I know.
and Bill Eisen he's built like a freaking unit. Like, oh my god.
Okay,
My
Cody,
bro,
you are just absolutely just
my,
sloppy.
what are
No,
you
but
talking
but
about?
do you remember? Do you remember in the Rockets game? I forgot which
I agree.
which possession he was. We like slapped the floor and was like clapping. Like we
That's
love
what
to see that type of
that's what I like
stuff.
to see.
And
We love to see
I hate
pride
to
on the
put a
defensive
sour.
end. We love to see pride on the defensive end because where's this team been on the defensive side of the basketball
Pride on the
past 10
defensive end is
years?
a real thing. One thing that just does kind of scare me though is
Pride
his
on the
height.
D.
He's just not a tall dude. I mean, we saw it. Like what is our fellow creators PKE
Okay.
met him.
Oh yeah, my
First
brother
off,
met him.
can we just talk about how this same kid just somehow never mind. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yeah,
Like we're getting Snapchats, we're seeing it, we're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, my brother he meets a lot of Blazer players. He's got Scoot Snapchat. He met or
there's no
Shaden
skids.
Snapchat.
I thought
He
you-
met Scoot at Washington
Hey.
Square.
Let's
And back to you saying he was a small dude. I don't know. My brother's 5'9", and let's just say he was almost as tall as him next to him. And I think of my brother as a little elementary schooler, little kid who I bully. So it's not.
He has a butt cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, you heard it. I hope Shai was listening this far into the podcast.
That's such an interesting question because they could all
Yeah.
like any one of them could have a fantastic year for in terms of statistics. I wouldn't say in terms of like winning basketball, obviously. Unless Joe Cronin just gathers the boys day one. Boys, we are
nope.
We're going for it.
No. And it's going to be interesting to see how they all play together. Because, like, back to what you were saying before, how do you rank, like, a young core? Do you rank it off if we get a lottery pick or seeding? Because
Yeah,
if you tank as a young core, that's good because you tank and get. But if you tank, you're also trash at basketball. So it's like,
yeah,
I think we have a better young core than the Pelicans and Timberwolves, for example. But I think they are going to have a higher seed than us next year, for example, which is
farther along.
Beautiful for us.
I think it's going to be kind of like what we were talking last week. This year, we're instead of watching just solely to see if we win or lose, we're truly going to be watching to just watch actual basketball, and we will. Even if Scoot goes 5 for 19 on a night, we'll be able to recognize that he was a great playmaker that night, or the shots he missed were still good looks, and he normally knocks those down. So I think it's going to be something where, I mean,
little wins this year.
Yeah, it'll be. That's just depressing what I just said now that I think about it. But
no, you said something earlier in the podcast that I didn't say, but you're like, yeah, like Cooper Flag, like reclass, and we all know the Blazers will be in the lottery in 2026. Jeez.
Yeah,
oh man, it's a dark tunnel, man. But we have our headlights. Scoot, Shane, and Ant. Dude, I'm the king of bad analogies.
You
I'll
think
say
Scoot's- you
dark
think-
tunnel and yeah.
You think Scoot's gonna start at center? That's probably where Joe was thinking he was gonna play when they drafted him, right?
Backup center.
I thought
Backup
didn't we
center.
sign Moses Brown?
Nice.
We're gonna re-sign Nate Robinson out of retirement
Who's that?
to play point
Who's
guard
the
for us.
European guy from Real Madrid that we've been in?
I don't even know what's going on with that. I saw
We're in
that,
talks
but
with him, dude. If we can get him, he's the next Jokic.
yeah. Then we may be the world champs.
Oh, nice. That's sly right there.
Let me just say something. If you win in the NBA, you are the world champions of basketball.
Like,
Let's just
Do we
Sure.
want to argue? Do we want to argue that? Because I would low key say no.
I don't want to argue it. Yes, every NBA champion and practically almost every NBA team would probably beat any other team overseas.
That's such a bad take.
Is it though?
No, it's not.
It's not a bad take at all.
You don't
Blazers are clapping any international team.
the U.S. or the
Blazers.
or the Wizards.
I think the Blazers could go over and beat Real Madrid.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, do you remember the game where like the Thunder with PG and Russ like lost to I forgot who it was.
No, it was the Suns in the preseason lost like the Adeline 36ers last year.
I get it was preseason, but it shouldn't matter.
Bro, but okay, for the sake of the argument though,
no,
it's-
but
like
you
the
get what
Nuggets
he's
would go.
trying to say?
Sure, they're not actually the world champs. I get why he's saying it can make him annoyed because like only people that truly are world champs should be world champs. So sure, I mean I don't really care that much.
like
Like
for
maybe
example,
the branding
like,
shouldn't be that, but the people arguing that we don't know if the Nuggets are the best team in the world is just a wild take to me.
the Nuggets, the June Nuggets, June Nuggets from this year would dismantle
no,
any
I-
basketball team by 40.
I agree,
in the
but
world.
that's I don't. Yeah, I think you can be the best team in the best league. That doesn't mean you didn't play against the world though.
No,
Like,
yeah, I mean
so
that's what I was saying. Like, yeah, I was just
Yeah.
saying for the people that
But
are.
I just think it
arguing
was
for
funny how,
that,
like-
the other reason.
I think it was funny how like mad the NBA players got. Like,
Yeah, it was kind of funny. Dame was included. Oh.
hey,
Oh,
excuse
you
me.
can't say that word.
we can say that word.
The number
Dude,
zero.
I don't want to be a part of the part. I don't want to be a part of the Blazers fans, the section of Blazer fans who are like mad at
Oh,
Dame.
okay. Hey, I have a question. This is a serious question that I was thinking about. It's kind of a fun question, but I'm asking genuinely because I was thinking like I've got all these jerseys, and most likely none of them are going to be on the team next year. If you were to get one jersey, who would it be? I have my answer
What for on our team this year?
for the Blazers.
I'm
Whose
getting
jersey would I get?
Scoot.
I'm getting
Scoot's-
Anthony.
I'm getting Scoot as well. Scoots
Although
just has
I'm
a
not
better
gonna lie-
chance to be on our team than Ant.
Well, from
I'm
that
not gonna
point
lie,
of view, I guess
The 0-0 is just not that
I
attractive.
don't really think it's that. I don't think it's great. I mean,
Like,
obviously,
when I
can't-
think of 0-0, I think of Melo, which is fine. It's just like I don't know.
I think of
Also, like I think we should, and I don't think it's going to change to 0 because I think the Blazers are going to retire that number.
obviously,
Okay,
even if they didn't retire, no one would
Well,
let
yeah,
them.
but
It's like how
like-
no one wears number 7. And
but aren't they
respect.
like not? Yeah, but aren't they? I mean, can you just retire a number immediately after he leaves and he's still in the league?
Oh, I mean, they'll probably wait a couple years, but it's just like most like no one
Well-
wears 23 in Cleveland right now because
Yeah,
he's the
that's-
king
Yeah.
of Cleveland.
Dude, I remember I saw a tweet. Actually, no, I'm not gonna talk about that because it has to do with Dame Dalla.
He who should not be spoken about. All right, I think that's really
He can be spoken about.
yeah. I know. We're just trying to give everyone a break because
Right.
we've seen some of the comments. People think we don't like Scoot because we like Dame. We love Scoot. We love Anthony. We love the team. And despite the situation, I'm still looking forward to next season. It's gonna be a fun first.
If
For
you could just
rebuilding season.
off the top of your head, and if you can't, then I will give you mine because I'm asking this question because I have a good answer for it. The question is just off the top of your head, what game are you looking forward to the most this season?
It's got to be the Heat to Moda because I'm assuming Dame's going to be on the Heat, and it's our only nationally televised game. Or, you know what I mean by nationally
I'm looking forward to
televised.
probably the first Scoot versus Wimby game.
And
Okay.
maybe we can go to that
We
in
might be
person.
there. And then also just like the games that are near me too, obviously.
Yeah. I was gonna say the very first one because that is the only time it would be acceptable to be over 500. Like I'll actually be rooting for a win on opening night because it won't matter. And then after that, it's kind of like
Ooh, no. You want what I'm rooting for? Because I mean, unfinished business. We struggled last year. I guess the schedule isn't out yet for it, but it obviously is like the most important time of the year for us and Joe, but probably first summer league game next year.
Ouch. Didn't have to end the podcast with that joke, but
Okay,
well,
that
looks
was a
like
joke,
it.
guys. But thanks for watching.
thanks for listening.
Thanks watching or listening. Yeah. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a rating. We won't ask for 5 stars. Just give us what you think the rating should actually be. Preferably it's over 4, but we'll let you guys decide.
Preferably it's 5, but again, honesty is what we want.
Make sure to go follow our TikTok because that is where a lot of our content has been over the last couple weeks and over the next coming weeks until the Blazers get back in full swing. If you like NBA trivia, if you just like the NBA in general, and obviously we still have plenty of Blazer content over there, so make sure to go check it out. And with that being said, we will see you next week. Peace out, guys.